Hey guys, today we're going to be going over build out breakdown games at the 9v9 level. So let's go. Been a pretty good week here for me personally. Leeds United got promoted. So we're back in the Premier League for the first time in 2 years. So pretty pumped, although I did actually get a lot from watching the championship the last 2 years. But the topic this week is something that I've actually gotten a lot of emails on, and that is build out breakdown games, but at the 9v9 level. If you're not familiar with build out breakdown games, I'll go ahead and put a link to a video I did in the past, but this would be sort of the second step in how you start teaching build out. So you start with basic pattern choreography, which is essentially just unopposed patterns of play building out of the back. You then break it down by breaking the field in half. You guys have seen that at the 7v7 level, this starts very simply in a 2v1 plus a goalkeeper. So this would be where it's the center back would be receiving the ball from the goalkeeper, and you would have the wing versus one defender. This would then get progressed to 3v2 plus a goalkeeper. So you would have now your center back, your wing, your center midfielder, against two defenders. And that's pretty much where it ends at the 7v7 level. You can progress it to adding the striker in there at 7v7, which really looks more like a 4v3. And that's essentially where it progresses at 9v9. So usually at the 9v9 level, I start out with a 4v3 plus the goalkeeper. All right, guys, so let's just go through how you're gonna set this up. You're splitting the field in half here, and I usually just put 3 cones down like this. We then typically have 2 pug goals here on both splits of the field. Each team has a goalkeeper, a center back, a wing, a central midfielder, and in my setup at 9v9, this would be a defensive center midfielder or a 6. And then the top of the diamond here is the attacking center mid. In setting up the defenders, I like to put out cones to represent where they need to start. So this is your basic setup where each team is confined to one half and they're playing 4 against 3, and they can either dribble past the half line for a point or they can score in the goal. Just so this is a little bit easier to see and kind of understand what we're doing, I'm just going to show one side of it. Now, part of it would depend on how many players you actually had to practice. So you can see here with the 4v3 plus the goalkeeper, it's really 8 players per side. So you would need 16 total to run this on both sides. But you could always use a coach as the goalkeeper, for example, to get to that number. If you don't have that number, you can just run it on one side of the field. Let's say you only have, 12 or 10 or whatever it is. You can have people kind of switch in and out, either as defenders or as the team in possession. So you can see here the ball goes to the center back plays it out to our wing plays it to the center mid, who then finds the other center mid, who then gets through the half line. The team building out of the back would receive 1 point, and the game would go ahead and restart at the goalkeeper. So you would need lots of footballs down in the goal for the goalkeepers to go ahead and reset into play if the ball goes out or if a point is scored. Now, if the defenders win the ball, they can go ahead and go towards goal to try to shoot and score. And depending on your skill level and kind of how the game is going, if the defenders score, sometimes I'll make it worth 5 points or 3 points, really to try to keep the game as competitive as possible. All right, so just for some context here, you can see this is one side of the field, and we've got 2 4v3 plus the goalkeeper building out of the back breakdown games set up. I'm going to focus here on the 4v3 plus the goalkeeper going on the right side of the pitch. There's also a separate one going on the left. There's also a 4v4 4-goal game going on behind these 2 games, just so you guys don't get confused. This was a pretty large group. We had 24 kids. So this actually might be a video I do later talking about how I deal with a large group of players. The goalkeeper has just rolled it out to the center back, who has the defensive center mid to his left and the wing to his right. The attacking center mid is starting to set up at the top of the diamond here, and the 3 defenders are set up here in red pennies. So I'm going to let this run a little bit here. You can see that the center back looks to potentially play the wing, decides again to go to the defensive center midfielder on the build out. Our defensive center midfielder combines with the attacking center mid, And here you can see he could have just dribbled through or even played it to the wing to dribble through, but instead decides to shoot on goal. And it's important to make sure that they get set up and the defenders actually stay at their cones, because sometimes the defenders will have a tendency to just go wherever. So you can see here again, the goalkeeper rolls it back out to our center back, who ends up taking his space, getting away from the defender. And then you can see here plays a nice little ball to the attacking center mid to get us out of the back. So the first progression from a 4v3 plus the goalkeeper would be to go to a 5v3 or 5v4 plus the goalkeeper. All you're doing here is adding a striker at the top of the 4-3-1 formation that I run at 9v9, plus you're adding an extra defender. And again, it depends on the level of your team. They might not be able to handle 4 defenders at first, so maybe you just start out with 5v3 plus the goalkeeper, or if they're skilled enough, you can add the 4th defender. So whether you're doing build-out breakdown games or attacking breakdown games, the next progression, I talked about how the first step, let's just say in build-out, would be to go through pattern choreography, unopposed work. The next step are these breakdown games we're talking about, but the progression after that is to go to positional games. So with build out, that's typically at 9v9, a 9v5 or 9v6. It really depends on the skill of your team because you want to balance competitiveness as well as having some success building out of the back. Here's a little bit more detail on the positional game, the 9v6. You can see here that I've taken away the cones in the middle. So we've gone from the breakdown game, which would be half the field, to the full field. You can see the blue team here in possession is set up in the formation that I use at 9v9, which is a 4-3-1. I have the defenders set up in a typical press, really in a 3-2-3 without the fullbacks. But you can set this up to kind of mimic any team you're playing, potentially getting ready for the weekend. Goal here is for the blue team to build out of the back, find a way out, either dribble through the halfway line or score in the pug goals. And if the red team wins the ball, they go to goal. I would then play to a certain number, like play to 5 or play for a certain amount of time and keep track of the score. And again, sometimes depending on how much success the possession team has, you might have to say if the defensive team wins the ball back and scores, it's worth 5 goals or 3 goals, just to make it again as competitive as possible. So guys, I hope you really liked that video and that it gives you something to use for your teams. I had a lot of requests for the build out breakdown games for 9v9. The old video is basically going over 7v7. So it's really just adding more players and then progressing to your positional game. Let me know in the comment section or reach out to me through email if you want me to cover something else specifically. It's been a really busy spring, so I haven't been able to get as many videos out as I would have liked. But I know I've had a lot of people ask me for more 11v11 stuff, so we'll try to do that. I've got some other corner and set piece stuff planned, but if there's other stuff that you guys really want to cover, just let me know and reach out. Other than that, see you in the next video.